I'm here and speaking to some important questions about certain use cases in Micasa. And the question came up about volunteering. And I explained that, rather, volunteering rather than getting paid if you're a collaborator. I explained that our initial design really had that option so long as you just had 0% as the profit share that you offered a collaborator. Now, what this called to mind and what I wanted to get on record is a couple things. First of all, when you see the wireframes, which will be accessible on the dashboard at some point soon, there are some features that changed during development that are not reflected in the wireframes, but were what made it to the final build. So, if possible, those of you who are Apple users, our materials, I believe, include instructions to onboard to test flight. On test flight, you can click through the final build, which differed in certain important ways from the wireframes, as which were really the wireframes were the designs that were handed over to the developers initially. And again, there were some changes. And on test flight, you could see that final build. So, and another thing I want to mention is that there's one very interesting function that we added to the final build that is not in the wireframes, which is called Find a Gig. And what Find a Gig is a way for you as an event creator to have an open position rather than find a collaborator first and send them a proposal and then have an agreement to share revenue for whatever performer or staffer. Create an open position with certain with specifying what you need and what profit share you're offering, and then people can apply to it. Essentially, they can view it, hit apply, and then you see people who apply, and you can accept or reject the application. This is another way I think that what we're doing can differentiate us from certain other platforms. It's creating a kind of a marketplace or an opportunity just to find different kinds of work if you're a performer. And again, that's not reflected in the wireframes. It is reflected on test flight, and we hope that those of you who are Apple users can go through the process, and we add your email address and you can install test flight. Maybe some of you have done that before. But we like that functionality, Find a Gig, and we do hope it remains, we're hoping it ends up making sense to keep that in this new design, particularly because, coming back to the idea of volunteering, a lot of the events I'm involved with personally and part of some of the events that are we're planning to feature as in our launch are open mics. And the great thing about open mics are that we get all different kinds of people to come and perform, and we want to use Micasa so that you sign up to perform at the open mic by essentially hitting an open position on the event page, and that creates a funnel for all sorts of people to create profiles and engage with the app. So once again, if you could just visualize, even now without test flight, an event page that has, let's say, 5 open position slots for performers who maybe you can imagine some sort of an open mic. So that's something quite specific, just about certain functions. But hopefully that is just giving even more detail to how our app works, how it encourages people to get involved. Because you can have bought a ticket. You can buy a ticket and not only thinking of performing, but you can go to an event page and see an open position, and then you can just apply, right? So we're creating these opportunities to engage with the platform to kind of cross those boundaries or definitions of different user types. And one last detail there, if you create an open position where it's a 0% profit share, that's how you could essentially treat it like there might be volunteer positions open. And if you want to run an open mic where you're not paying anybody, but you're just inviting people to apply to perform, then you can just make it a 0% revenue share. So yeah, that is that detail. Um, we're hoping that the test flight onboarding is pretty smooth. There might be a few details on our end to patch up just to make sure that the build is sort of currently functional on test flight, but we'll be addressing that shortly as well. So yes, any other questions?
Yeah, yeah. To me, there are two questions. I think we're almost on time, but you don't have to answer
Yeah.
it today. You can do it tomorrow. But the thing is, do you? It seems like a multi-stakeholder platform. Do you have specific user personas or target audience in mind that you're already targeting? Because from what you said, I could have a bar who's inviting performers for music. I could have a art studio who's inviting other artists or to
Yeah.
come showcase. So there seems to be you have a community in mind, and I would really like to understand that better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What, right. And you mean more than theoretically, you mean in actuality, you mean real communities that currently are active who we want to attract and plug into the platform. Yes, that's a great question. In fact, over the next week or two, I think we have a few replies from people who filled out our questionnaire, but I'm looking to get some more, and those are from various people in these communities. But I can also just um, add to our materials um, specific information about these active communities here in Brooklyn um, that we're targeting. I think that's a great idea.
That would be super helpful because Niall was mentioning that it'd be great if we did our little bit of user research. So
Yeah,
understanding the people we are trying to build for would help us maybe come up with any suggestions that are more meaningful, right?
yeah.
So great. Thank you for answering the question. I had another question. I just forgot what it was. Maybe if I remember it, I would mail it to you or put it up in the chat.
Okay.
All right.
Well, that's great. Rami, I really appreciate your questions and your interest, and I like that you have had some experience. It sounds as if you have had some experience hosting,
Mm-hmm.
um, which is important. Um, and yeah, I would look forward to and welcome any further questions from here on out. I'll have availability as a mentor on the GenHacks app, and should also be able to just reply to messages. Um, so yeah, amazing. I'm really glad we could spend this time today to get into some more detail.
Yeah. Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Mhm.
much.
Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. And, you know, for your questions, your emails, don't hesitate to send me a WhatsApp or a text, and I'll be there for you. Have a great rest of the day. I'll talk
All
to you
right.
soon.
Bye
Thank you,
bye.
Hugo. Bye bye.